doesn't work for that too often. Sometimes.
At multiple layers of abstraction, or do you mean just sequential?
Both, like, to break it down and then do things at different layers of abstraction and put them together. Look, I don't want to like downplay the accomplishment of GPT-4, but I don't want to overstate it either. And I think this point that we are on an exponential curve, we will look back relatively soon at GPT-4 like we look back at GPT-3 now. That
said, I mean, ChatGPT was a transition to where people like started to believe it. There is an uptick of believing, not internally at OpenAI, perhaps. There's believers here, but when you think,
and in that sense, I do think it'll be a moment where a lot of the world went from not believing to believing. That was more about the ChatGPT interface than and by the interface and product, I also mean the post-training of the model and how we tune it to be helpful to you and how to use it than the underlying model itself.
How much of those two, each of those things are important? The underlying model and the RLHF or something of that nature that tunes it to be more compelling to the human, more effective and productive for the human.
I mean, they're both super important, but the RLHF, the post-training step, the little wrapper of things that, from a compute perspective, little wrapper of things that we do on top of the base model, even though it's a huge amount of work. Mm-hmm. That's really important, to say nothing of the product that we build around it. In some sense, like, we did have to do two things. We had to invent the underlying technology, and then we had to figure out how to make it into a product people would love, which is not just about the actual product work itself, but this whole other step of how you align it and make it useful.
And how you make the scale work where a lot of people can use it at the same time, all that kind of stuff.
And that. But, that was like a known difficult thing. Like, we knew we were going to have to scale it up. We had to go do two things that had like never been done before, that were both like, I would say, quite significant achievements.